Welcome to Never Rewrite. I'm Isaac Askew.
And I'm Jeffrey Sherman, and today we're going to talk about how going for feature parity is a sign of bigger problems. So, in many of the rewrites that I have been involved with, there a lot of things have been hand waving. It's like, oh well, we're just going to go for feature parity, and therefore we don't need to talk like for the things that we don't care about. Therefore, we don't need to talk with the business about what this actually does, and we don't need to talk with other divisions about how this thing goes because we have an interface, right, or we have a contract, an API contract, and we're just going to go for feature parity, and it'll be exactly the same, and therefore we don't need to talk to these people.
Hmm.
And from a rewrite standpoint, there's all kinds of reasons why that's not great. Just because it commits you to rewriting a whole lot of software that maybe doesn't need to be rewritten, and but
Yeah.
you know. But today, let's talk about the social aspect of, or the apparent social aspect of this, because really what you're saying is, I'm going to commit to all this work. I'm going to buy all this work so that I don't have to deal with these other people,
Hmm.
right? And one thing you and I have been talking about offline, is boundaries, because that's what the section of the book we're writing about. It's like we talk about how boundaries can create safety, and boundaries, and we're talking like API contracts, interfaces, right? They create a barrier that lets you refactor and change things incrementally without having to expose anything. Like I don't need to talk to you about what's going on behind my boundary because it's none of your damn business. And you don't need to talk to me about what's going on behind my boundary. And that's a good thing. But the flip side is, if I have if I have an interface and I say, okay, now I need to recreate the entire thing behind this interface because I
Mm-hmm.
have promised you feature parity,
Right.
or because I'm not going to discuss with you because I'm doing feature parity. That can also be a thing if it's more than one. If you are saying that about more than one incremental piece of work, that's a sign that you're actually you're doing a rewrite now. You're doing this big bang thing of, oh, I'm going to change a whole bunch of stuff, but I don't need to talk to you because I have this boundary. And I'm going to sit on my boundary and I'm going to say, I don't need to talk to you. And the boundary then becomes an excuse for a social dysfunction.
Can you queue up like an example? Like why is this a problem? I'll put it that way.
All right. I have worked in rewrites of the past where I have had a website and we wanted to move the website, and this is 20 plus years ago, where
Mm-hmm.
websites lived on machines and they were bespoke and the machines were pets and not cattle. I don't know if you're even old
Yep.
enough to remember that one, but like these
Mm-hmm.
machines were hard to set up. And so we were migrating and it was all server side rendering, by the way. The whole, you produce a JSON output from your API, and then there's a rendering front end that's entirely decoupled. That's
Yeah, yeah.
years in the future. And so we had this agreement. Here's this application that's on the internet, and this team uses it, and we want to move from. I'm going to go with this example: ASP.3 to .NET, ASP.NET, which require it's not a lift. It's a fundamental thing. You need to do a rewrite if you want to change technologies, which we've said in the past. That's one of the few reasons that you might want to do a rewrite, is you're changing technologies.
Mm-hmm.
And so my group were like, well, we're changing technologies and we'll just give them feature parity, and therefore we don't have to talk to them. And so we spent weeks and weeks building feature parity. And when we delivered it to them, they're like, oh, you recreated this terrible thing that we hate.
Mm.
And they said, oh, we wish you would talk to us because we actually hate this and we wanted something so much simpler and so much better.
Yeah.
And if we had talked to them instead of going for feature parity, we could have given them something much smaller that would have been much more incremental to deliver, and they would have been so much happier. And we didn't need feature
Yeah.
parity.
This is kind of reminding me of the rewrite versus rebuild thing we
Yes.
discussed a few times. Um, Especially because like in feature parity, like I feel like every website that I've worked on has one feature somewhere
Mm-hmm.
that is a one-off feature that's like,
Mm-hmm.
who uses this? Like you have like a lot of bells and whistles. You've got all these little calculators here and there, and then you find one random page, and you're like, "Who is this built for? I've never even used this page. I've been here 4 years, and I've never even seen this page." You know, there's always one of those things. So when you go for feature parity, you carry that over too.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got good, communication with what you're porting over, and you've got good analytics over who uses the pages and the features, you can cut scope. If you look at that page and go, oh, this page was hit one time in the last 3 years. Oh, that was me. Who was the person who hit it? No one uses this page, and this would take, a day or 2 days additionally to port. So
Right.
the conversation, one, can reduce the scope if you are trying to port for reasons like changing technologies. But two, that communication gives you the rebuild chance, right?
Right.
So you can have a conversation of should we have parity, or should we have 80% parity and then 20 other percent we actually want to take this opportunity to uh, build something different that actually serves the customer a little bit better. So you could
Right.
even
Feature.
strangler fig it,
Yeah.
80% do one thing, leave the other 20% on the old flow for the time being, while you rebuild something that's better serving, and then cut somebody over once you're done.
Right. Going for feature parity closes the opportunity. It forecloses the opportunity of any improvements.
Right.
Right. It creates the boundary which saves you from having to work with the other team, which is good. A boundary is great when it allows you to do incremental improvements, but it also forecloses. It allows you to do incremental improvements of what you already have, but it
Mm-hmm.
forecloses the opportunity to do incremental improvements of what the experience is for the other side of the boundary.
I feel like it for the developers that just want to get going and just
Mm-hmm.
like chomping at the bit to actually get started on the project or whatever. That's what they like about it. Like, oh, I don't have
Right.
to communicate. All the work's cut out for me. I know exactly what I need because all I have to do is maintain feature parity, and then I've succeeded.
Right.
And let's just go. Whereas, oh, more discussions. We're gonna have another meeting about this, and like just talk about what we're gonna pour or not gonna pour. Let's just go. Like,
Right. It becomes
yeah,
an excuse for dysfunctional because you don't know that you actually want this. Right. It's the idea that you can achieve your goal and still fail as a project. If you port over
yeah,
code
yep.
that nobody cares about or features that people hate the way they work, then you can succeed in your specific goal, but still fail to actually deliver anything useful.
Yeah,
And because AI is everywhere, AI just makes this opportunity worse because you can,
yeah.
bear down on feature parity so much faster, but AI cannot know if that's actually what you want.
This is actually a perfect reason for like other prior conversations that we've had about like how do you differentiate your skill set from AI?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you just follow instructions and you're one of those stickler people who's like, oh, it wasn't in the acceptance criteria, so I didn't do it. Because you just like you're intentionally throwing away context, then you're no better than an AI at that point. And an
Yes.
AI can do a really good job at porting a feature parity one to one. If you say, here's my contract, especially if you give it an existing contract and you can test against it, and you can
Mm-hmm.
test its own build to make sure it does the same thing. You give it guardrails and it does really well with that, rather than just say build it. Because sometimes you'll say build it, it's like okay, done, and then you hit the endpoint and nothing happens, like because it didn't finish it. I've had that
Yes.
happen. But if you give it a contract, yeah, it can do a great job doing a one-to-one parity. So then again, why are we paying you instead of just paying Claude to
Mm.
do it? You're not serving any other purpose at that point. So what you need to be doing is that communication that you're talking about. Do I need to rebuild this thing in this way? Or while we're here, now, while we're already losing money on this thing that we have to do, is there
Mm-hmm.
anything we can better in the process that we normally couldn't have done until now? All those conversations are great to have. And I think
Right.
again, like at this point, like unless you can show that you've got the business context and you can provide something producty or relevant, then someone who's higher up looks at you and goes, okay, Claude can do what this guy does faster and complain less. We need someone who can actually
This is true.
contribute, and understand context. Yeah.
Right. Feature parity is something that an AI can do. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
it depends on how dirty your code is originally. So, but in a larger sense, you are probably not going to be getting to feature parity faster and more effective than a similar developer with AI. So if all you're
Yeah.
going for is feature parity, then you've probably now made a mistake. It becomes even more of a smell that
I think so.
you're probably doing the
Yeah.
wrong thing.
And there's bound to be something, like again, like if you're forced to rewrite because of a language constraint or deprecation, like what we saw earlier with like the Python support or whatever in a prior thing where you have to switch technologies.
Right, that was
If
Khan
you're going to
Academy
do
where they
that,
had to.
yeah, if you're already in that boat, then and you have to do a port, let's say for feature parity's sake, then either use AI to do that and do it faster and cheaper. And that takes away a lot of the big overhead, which before was you lose so much in sunk developer costs. Or take the opportunity to communicate with the people like you're saying what they don't do, but they should do, and identify, do we do the rebuild path? Do we not rewrite the exact thing that exists? Do we port most of it over that people liked and use this as a great opportunity to reach out to the customers and say, hey, we're actually going to start working on these other features that you guys asked for, that maybe before we were limited by the prior language that we were using. Now we're not. And let's add that in the delivery of this thing.
Yes. I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening. I'm Jeffrey Sherman.
And I'm Isaac Askew, and this is Never Rewrite.